silver comes out of the ground at just under 10 ounces for every 1 ounce of gold. So God's ratio is, let's call it 10 to 1. Man's ratio right now is 88 to 1. For hundreds and hundreds of years, it was 16 to 1. So if God's ratio is 10 to 1, why did man settle on 16 to 1? At this point, think about the uses of silver. I mean, there's so many uses. There's industrial uses, there's technological uses, there's medicinal uses, and now we've got the green energy uses. There's so many more uses for silver, and there's almost no uses for gold other than jewelry, bank reserves, or individuals holding it. So there's so many uses for silver. What if you woke up tomorrow morning and silver was $200?
Silver is one of the world's most popular metals, prized both as a monetary asset and as an industrial resource. When it comes to money, silver is second only to gold. In everyday life, you can find silver in jewelry, silverware, coins, solar panels, and cell phones. Its excellent ability to conduct heat and electricity makes it perfect for electrical applications. Plus, silver's antimicrobial and non-toxic properties mean it's also used in medicine and various consumer products. And because it reflects visible light better than any other metal, it's ideal for mirrors and decorative items. Silver is also very versatile. It can be flattened into thin sheets or drawn into fine, flexible wires. Its sensitivity to light makes it a favorite in film photography, and it's even used in military technology like missiles and torpedoes. Despite all these impressive qualities, the market price of silver often seems to fall short of its true value. For example, silver reached a record high of $49.51 per ounce in April 2011, but more than a decade later, it has repeatedly failed to get anywhere near this high. It's no wonder many investors feel frustrated with silver, as its value is often underestimated. Various precious metals and financial analysts have described silver as a severely misunderstood and a most hated asset due to the disillusionment with its price. In a recent interview with Kinesis Money, Bill Holter, a renowned financial commentator and precious metals analyst, discusses some important issues affecting the silver market. One is, of course, the constant manipulation of the silver market by large commercial banks and hedge funds. This practice, which many alleged is fully supported by the U.S. government, is the major reason why silver's price has been oscillating in the same range for well over a decade. Like other precious metals analysts, Holter says a big change is coming, one that could see silver prices go as high as $200 per ounce. We will bring you clips from Holter's discussion with Andrew Maguire. But before we do, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. We appreciate the support and hope you enjoy the video.
My thought process with gold and silver, the market is so much smaller. It's probably not even a tenth of the gold market. I've all along called silver the fuse to the golden nuclear bomb. You cannot have silver go into a default status and gold ignore it. I mean, it would immediately be followed by the gold market. You'd have buyers left and right. We're at the point now. Let me just talk about inflate or die, Richard Russell's, famous saying. From a debt standpoint, because it's a Ponzi scheme, you have to continually create more debt to feed the Ponzi monster. If you don't feed the debt, then the debt collapses. So they're going to feed the debt. But when you feed the debt, what you're doing is you're expanding the money supply. So if money supply is going up 5%, 7%, 10, 11% per year, yet gold and silver production is static or slightly declining. What's happening is, it's the classic, too many dollars chasing too few assets. And it's that way, it's that way system wide, because GDPs are only growing worldwide at 2%? But yet money supplies are double, triple, quadruple that just to keep that 2% growth. So it's a dangerous situation. And like you said, when gold blows, confidence breaks, and that will literally blow up the entire derivatives complex across the board, which includes all sorts of commodities, all sorts of sovereign treasuries, equity markets across the world. The derivatives market gets taken down when gold becomes unavailable, to deliver.
And silver could be the trigger for that in itself.
I think it will be. Yes, absolutely. Like I said, you can't have a default in the silver market and the gold market ignore it. That cannot happen. Silver comes out of the ground at just under 10 ounces for every 1 ounce of gold. So God's ratio is, let's call it 10 to 1. Man's ratio right now is 88 to 1. For hundreds and hundreds of years, it was 16 to 1. So if God's ratio is 10 to 1, why did man settle on 16 to 1? And that's pretty simple, because years ago, 150, 200, 300 years ago, if you were going to transport capital or pay, you had to transport the metal. And because you had to transport 10 times as much silver by carriage, by horse, by whatever, man discounted silver because of the inconvenience. And I believe in the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, it's 15 to 1 or 15 and a fraction to 1. And the world settled on 16 to 1, basically to compensate for the inconvenience of having to transport 10 times the weight, 10 times the size of what you could do with gold.
Where does that put silver today? I mean, even at a suppressed $30 spot price, let's just pick the round number, that'd be $275. I mean, in round numbers. I mean, why not? Why would it not be?
Because there's been a concerted effort for 100 years to suppress the price of silver. Actually, you could go back to, I think it was 1897 in the U.S., when there was the big fight between the East Coast, the gold people, and the Western markets that were digging up a lot of silver. I mean, it goes back 125, 130 years, the price suppression. At this point, think about the uses of silver. I mean, there's so many uses. There's industrial uses, there's technological uses, there's medicinal uses, and now we've got the green energy uses. So there's so many more uses for silver, and there's almost no uses for gold other than jewelry and reserves, bank reserves, or individuals holding it. So there's so many uses for silver. What if you woke up tomorrow morning and silver was $200? What would happen to a lot of the products, a lot of the uses that are in place right now? What would happen to those? Some of those, probably many, maybe more than half, those uses, the model wouldn't make sense. I mean, that would bleed through to the entire system, where you would see an inflation of all sorts of goods in all the uses for silver. Would that upset the whole system? I don't know, but I know it would certainly upset a lot of industries.
The concerted effort to bring silver down, dating back to at least 100 years and involving giant entities, including the military-industrial complex, shows how important of a metal silver is. Above anything, this strong and constant manipulation of silver's price should serve as motivation for investors to buy even more silver. Why, you may ask? This same system that suppresses silver's price backs the fiat Ponzi, which everyone agrees is on the verge of a complete collapse. When the collapse begins, all the entities backing the system will lose their powers over everything, including the silver market, which will finally allow the metal to take on its true value. At that point, when the entire world will be thrown in utter chaos, stackers will have something important to fall back on. During their discussion, McGuire and Holter also talk about U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs and what they mean for everyday Americans. Trump has recently announced tariffs against Canada, Mexico, and China, an action which has elicited mixed reactions from economists and financial analysts. Let's get back to Holter's interview to hear his take on the issue.
I would just go back to 1929, 1930. What happened then? Tariffs were raised all over the world. What happened? Trade collapsed. And that's what's going to happen here. If he does go through with these tariffs, and when I first heard it right off the bat, I'm like, that's not really a great idea because that is going to harm trade. Trade is what creates, if you want to call it velocity worldwide, it creates, money moves, it creates liquidity. You put some sand in those gears and you're going to have a hard time getting the machine going again.
Yeah, that makes it does make sense, and so I mean, and yet what as the threat of these tariffs or sanctions, whatever you want to call them, is what is driving the acceleration of BRICS facing central banks to purchase more gold, because again, for just the reason you've outlined. It underscores the very reason that you've just outlined.
Well, yeah, and I kind of want to go back to what we were just talking about. Everything in the world, and I'm not talking about physical assets, I'm talking about financial assets. Everything in the world has the possibility of bankrupting. Gold and silver cannot bankrupt, thus making them the perfect foundation, the last two financial men standing, when this thing comes down. Like I said, creating tariffs, you got to be really careful because then you could create a tariff war / trade war.
Yeah. And,
trade slows down. China is super leveraged. We're super leveraged. All you have to do is knock one of the wheels off the track and the rest are going to follow. And I think that's, tariffs, the way they're being explained to the American people, that they're a good thing and you won't have to pay as much in taxes because foreigners are going to be paying the taxes. Well, what tariffs are going to do is when you slap a tariff on something, you're going to get less supply of it because some suppliers are not going to send it. So now you've got less supply, which that on its own raises the price. But if you add 10% or 25% or 50%, whatever, to the good, the widget that you're making, that money is going to ultimately be passed along to the consumer. So something that cost $10 yesterday, and then they put the tariffs on, it might be $13, $14. You're feeding the inflation monster, and you feed, I guess most importantly, you feed inflation expectations. And what that leads to is people basically just trying to spend their currency before it goes further down in value. The realization that world trade was something for nothing. The U.S. would import real goods and export dollars, which are nothing. That's the reason, or one of the, the main reasons behind the formation of the BRICS in the first place. I mean, that's why they've joined together. They want free and fair settlement. And fair settlement is not where you give goods and you get a piece of paper that, continually day after day loses value because they're printing more of it every day. The treasuries, the currency of treasuries can and is being diluted. The danger of not being paid back, an outright default is rising, although I don't think that'll happen because they can always print. But there is that danger. And on top of that, then there's the danger that the U.S. Treasury will decide, oh, well, we don't like what you're doing. Your money is now ours, like what they did with Russia. So I think the Keynesian thought process is flawed from the respect of they don't understand what's the true foundation to the financial world. It's gold. It's not treasury bonds. Although for the time being, it is treasury bonds. But there's going to be a comeuppance that the likes that the world collectively has never seen before.
Precious metals analysts are increasingly optimistic about silver's potential for explosive growth in the coming months, driven by several interconnected factors. One of the most significant concerns is the dwindling supply of silver from mining operations. With new discoveries becoming scarcer and environmental, as well as regulatory challenges hampering the expansion of mining activities, the amount of newly produced silver is steadily decreasing. Moreover, since silver is frequently mined as a byproduct of other metals, its production levels are less responsive to price increases, further tightening supply. At the same time, demand for silver is on the rise. Silver's unique properties make it invaluable for a wide range of industrial applications, from electronics and solar panels to medical devices. As technological advancements continue and the global push for renewable energy intensifies, industrial consumption of silver is expected to grow significantly. On the investment side, silver has traditionally served as a safe haven asset, attracting investors during times of economic uncertainty. This dual demand, from both industrial sectors and investors, places additional pressure on an already limited supply. Another critical factor is the reduction in above-ground silver stocks. A large portion of the world's silver exists in private and institutional reserves that are not actively traded. Over time, as these above-ground supplies diminish, whether through long-term storage, hoarding, or simply being locked away, the liquid market supply shrinks. This scarcity means that even modest increases in demand could have a substantial impact on prices. Adding another layer of complexity, China is actively working to reshape the global precious metals landscape. By securing additional silver reserves, expanding its refining capabilities, and making strategic acquisitions, China aims to shift the control of the precious metals industry away from Western influence. This strategic repositioning not only tightens the global supply, but also signals a potential increase in internal demand within China, as the country moves to assert its dominance in the market. The combination of a diminishing supply, surging demand from multiple sectors, reduced liquid reserves, and strategic moves by China creates a scenario that analysts describe as a perfect storm for silver. If these trends continue, the supply-demand imbalance could drive silver prices to new heights in the near future, making it one of the most intriguing assets for investors and industry watchers alike. Please share your thoughts on Bill Holter's interview about silver, a looming financial system implosion, and the imminent end of the suppression of the silver market. We are always happy to hear from our viewers. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications bell for more videos like this. Thanks for watching and hope to see you in the next one.